And good morning and welcome in to the Real Monica Adams Show. It is 7:01 and we keep seeing that snow in the intro, but how many of you want it? How many of you are wanting a white Christmas? I don't think you're going to get your wish, unfortunately. In fact, it looks like it's going to start warming up next week, at least for our immediate area. We do want to welcome all of you, no matter where you're from. And if you take us on vacation with you, well, we appreciate that even more. That way, everywhere, no matter where you are, you wake up to positivity. And I know I've got a lot of new people tuning in. I've had a lot of meetings over the last couple of weeks of people saying, wait a minute, I didn't know about this. This is how I want to start my day. So today we're going to give you some weather, give you some news you can use, things that the world is talking about this morning and here locally. We'll go into some sports news, and then we're going to get into a segment that I've been talking about for many, many months now that I've been wanting to start called generational talk. And what we want in life is that every generation understands those before us and those that are just coming up through the world. That is how we find respect with one another. So we think about what our parents have talked about, right? They say, oh, you kids don't even understand. Grandparents told their kids that. Great-grandparents. I remember sitting down in 7th grade, my very first, what I consider my very first interview, 7th grade, we were asked to interview somebody that lived during the Great Depression. So I sat down and spoke with my grandma, and I listened to that and realized that was the beginning of me understanding what those before me had gone through. And would we be able to go through that? So today, a lot of interaction, I'm hoping, from each and every one of you as you weigh in on whatever generation you are and what you've listened to from those that are younger than you. So I've got people on my team that are in their early to mid-20s, myself in my early 50s, as well as Michelle. So we're going to talk together, but what about those of you that are 60, 70, 80? Or those of you, Beckett, I'm not sure if you're watching this morning, that are younger in your teens. And what are you feeling today? A really cool segment that we hope grabs hold and starts a brand new segment that we will have regularly on our show. So welcome in. Let's get to our weather. Our immediate area today, some evening rain. In fact, I heard the time frame to be about 6 p.m. until maybe 3, 4 in the morning tomorrow. So it shouldn't affect our commute tomorrow morning. The roads should be wet, but it could be the latter part of this evening's commute. 57 though for a high. 39 for our low. Now, it is starting colder, though, today than it was yesterday. Yesterday was gorgeous. That sun was a welcome. Wednesday, mid-40s. Thursday, pretty much the same, mid to upper 40s. Friday, we get back into the 30s, so this weekend actually looks cold. If you still have some last-minute Christmas shopping that you're doing, you're going to be running around in cold weather. 36, 37 on Saturday, 39 on Sunday. You'd expect maybe that for Christmas, but nope. Look what happens. 45 for Monday. We go into Christmas Eve with a 30% chance of rain. 50 degrees, and then Christmas. I just got to stop here for a second. I can't believe it's going to be Christmas already. It's all I have to say. Christmas is next week, Wednesday, and we've got a slight chance of showers right now with a high of 52, and it just continues to get warmer. We're talking about 56 for a high on Thursday. Again, this is our immediate area. If you're outside of our area, we always just say, just bear with us for just a second as I try to take care of those on our Missouri and Illinois side. Now, we're going to start with a story, and I'm going to tell you that today we're doing this on purpose because this is what Michelle and I always woke up to. We always turned the news on. It's what our generation knew, and we woke up, unfortunately, to these type of stories. Today, the entire world is talking about yet another school shooting, and as I say that, I get a chill. If you have not heard about this morning in Wisconsin, 3 people are dead, including the teen suspect, a 15-year-old girl. This was at a Christian private school in Wisconsin. 6 others were injured during that school shooting in Madison. The police chief said officers received initial reports of the shooting, which occurred in a study hall at Madison Abundant Life Christian School at 10:57 yesterday morning. The first officers arrived to the private school 3 minutes later. Police said 2 victims who were shot and killed included a teacher and a teen student from the school, both pronounced dead at the scene. Officers then found the suspected shooter, who was a student at the school, with what is believed to have been a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside the building. Officers identified that suspect as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who also went by the name Samantha. She died during transport to the hospital. Investigators also said a handgun was recovered at the scene. A search was being done at the suspect's home last night. 6 others, again, injured in that shooting. And what they're saying today, the phone call, and this is one of the most chilling things, the phone call to police came from a second grader. Wrap your brain around that. All these things that a child shouldn't be even witnessing or dealing with. And now all of the counseling that they have to go through, how long maybe will they be out of school as they deal with this. But a second grader, folks, made that phone call. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a second. Unfortunately, I'm continuing to talk. And I know you're probably waking up saying, Monica, but you didn't used to wake us up to these things. But what are we going to do about this? School shootings. When I was in high school and grade school, we didn't have those. We didn't hear about those. There were fights. Maybe somebody had a knife one time at school, never guns. So what's happening to our world and how can we change this? Then I hear about a very rare shooting in Webster Groves. And the reason I'm bringing this up this morning is a lot of you are running around. A great place to go Christmas shopping, to go and have lunch and dinner. Well, now police are investigating a shooting that happened yesterday in Webster Groves. 2 people shot, and this was just a few blocks south of Manchester near Brentwood Boulevard. It happened about 8:05 last night in the area of Ivory Crockett Park. Officers were unable to locate the victim or suspect upon arrival. Later, police said 2 shooting victims called 911 saying that they had been shot. They were transported to a local hospital by a third party before officers arrived at the scene. The condition of the victims unknown. No suspects have been identified. If you have any information, call Webster Groves Police at 314-645-3000. I did some digging overnight, and we haven't had a shooting in Webster Groves in a year. Very rare, just if we look back even a decade ago. Again, Christmas shopping around with your kids. You know, you may have been wrapping it up and having dinner, and then this happens. Just senseless shootings continue to happen. And then what used to be a bar fight that would turn into maybe a fist fight, and then here's what used to happen. They would be like, I don't even know where it started from. Let me buy you a beer. That's what used to happen in bars. And this is what happened in South County yesterday. Familiar with the hot shots right there, South Lindbergh, just off of Lee May Ferry? Well, a man was shot, and a suspect remains in custody following that shooting. One man shot and is hospitalized. It is believed the 2 knew each other. Okay, if you're driving on 55 anywhere near Loughborough, watch out for falling bricks. Yeah, and maybe rocks and maybe stones. Who's throwing them? I don't know, but there have been many reports of people calling police saying that there's something happening right there at that overpass. Enough that it has now, the police in the area have actually put a mobile police camera to try and catch what is going on. But this is not just once or twice. It's happened a lot. So please be careful. I went back into my early years of news and remembered a woman who was killed because, and this was a woman who was trying to change her life, by the way. She was a dancer, and you know what I mean by that, who was going to school, putting herself through school to get out of that field, and then she was killed by someone throwing rocks off of an overpass. So extremely dangerous. Be very aware, be very vigilant, drive defensively as you see things like this. All right, I miss this every year, and I can't believe I missed it again. Nelly had his black and white party yet again. This was his annual party that he throws. It's his black and white charity ball. And he teased something last night during the special about 2025. The charity ball, by the way, raises money for Make-A-Wish and the granting of a Harris Stowe State University College scholarship. During the event, he granted a wish live on stage to a 14-year-old who wished for a brand new home theater system. He also surprised Harris Stowe State University's sophomore Tiana Ho with a 4-year-old full ride scholarship. Nelly, Murphy Lee, City Spud, Slow Down, is it Keyjon? Maybe Keyjon, were each given a key to the city by St. Louis's Mayor Tashara Jones. After receiving the key, Nelly teased a festival in partnership with Metro Bauman for St. Louis in 2025. Also, by the way, Jordan Bennington was honored with the event's second annual Black and White Ball Legend Award. And Nelly performed at the event with Ashanti, Jermaine Dupri, the St. Lunatics, Metro Boomin, Bow Wow, Blanco Brown, and this one I don't know, Polo de Don maybe? Again, folks, there are so many names in this that I'm like, huh? This is where we're talking about generational talk or I've lost. Who are these people? I used to be so good at being right on the pulse of everything, and I've lost that, unfortunately. The event's headliner, by the way, I do know this one, was Neo. Yeah. Okay. The Blues, by the way, we're just talking about Jordan Binnington. The Blues, they're in action tonight. They're at home, and they will be playing against the New Jersey Devils. The face-off for that is, the New Jersey Devils will be at 7 p.m. tonight. And then Patrick Mahomes, I didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday, but he is week to week now after that ankle sprain that he suffered in this past weekend's win over the Browns. Did you see it? I'm surprised it was his ankle. And I'm surprised he didn't have more. He was completely folded over. I was afraid for his ligaments and his knees, etc. I looked back and I was like, Patrick was injured going into the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And here he is again. He just takes beating after beating. The Chiefs play this weekend at noon. It'll be a Saturday, and it's unknown if Patrick will play or if they will rest him, maybe for the following week. The Saturday game is against the Texans at noon, and the Chiefs are entering a span in which they play twice in 5 days and 3 times in 11 days. A lot of people weighing in. What do you think? And I'll look at some comments here. What do you think? Should they rest him? I think so. Right? This is one of your best players, and you need him as you go into the Super Bowl. Rest him. Believe in your second-string quarterback. And give him some time. Otherwise, you're putting him in danger as you try to go into the Super Bowl. I don't know. Weigh in. Let me know what you think. Okay, we're going to start our generational talk. I'm going to bring Michelle in. We're going to go a little bit about this, what I just did, and what she knows I don't want to do. I don't want to wake you up to the negativity of the news, but I do want awareness, and I don't want us to turn a blind eye and think that these things aren't happening. But I want to get to what's sitting on my table, that VHS tape, A Simpler Time. And I love that Zach Kimball, my director, collects VHS tapes. We talked about CDs, cassettes, vinyl, 8-track tapes. Do you know what all these are? Do you know what a bag phone is? I mean, there's so many things we're going to talk about today that we've gone through in our 50s. What about you, 60, 70, 80-year-olds? Now, they're in their 20s. I'd love to talk to people that are in the 30, 40 range, the teenage range. How do we really do this? Blend ourselves, find respect for one another. And what do we do with this kind of information that we wake up with? Michelle used to tell me when I was in news, I can't turn you guys on anymore because I don't know what you're going to talk about. I don't know if my young son should be even hearing any of this. And I had a great conversation with someone the other day that said, if you don't think the kids are listening, just pay attention to what's happening around them, the mental state of what they go through. They're in the car with you folks. When you have the radio on, you're listening to the news. They're watching the TV, or at least listening to it as they're running around in the morning. They hear it. They absorb it. What are they doing with that information? We will talk about all of that. So we're going to take our first break. I'm going to start bringing in my team. I also want to make sure that you've been introduced to all of them, from Michelle Harmon to Zach Kimball to Tia Tricamo and to Hannah Ledford. They're all going to be in the blue chairs, little by little, when we return. Knows about Jody's balls, and why is that?
I have the best ball.
Oh my God. Oh wait. Welcome back, 7:16, and welcome to the Real Monica Adams Show. If you're just tuning in, thank you. We are on 3 platforms right now. When I'm in studio, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And then Tia, who you'll meet in just a little bit, she is going to be taking stories and reels that she'll turn for you on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. So be sure to follow us on TikTok as well. Well, I should say for at least next maybe 3-4 weeks. Who knows? Is the ban going to happen? That's another big thing that we've been talking about. That ban I have heard about since, I don't know, 3 years ago? 4 years ago. We started talking about it when I was at Channel 5. And I know the kids don't want TikTok to go away. But will somebody save that? We'll find out. All right, you just listened to a lot of news, and I'm going to look and see if we have any comments from any of you that are disheartened by the things that you're hearing about. Well, you should be, rightfully so. But as I introduce you to my team, and hopefully you've met some of these maybe out or you've at least seen them. Michelle, hopefully you've met out in person at some of our live shows. So first of all, welcome, Michelle Harmon.
Hello. Good morning.
So, Michelle, I know that you probably, I'm surprised you're doing those stories, Monica, but you understand why. Mm-hmm. And this is how we, and a lot of you, always started your day. Whether it was listening to KMOX back before TV and they were listening to the stories being told, turning on the news. It was what I did for 30 years. I don't want to wake people up that way, but it's not that we don't want you to know about it. It's just I don't want that to be just weighing so heavily on you. Right. You used to tell me, when I was at Channel 2 and at Channel 5, I can't watch you all anymore.
Right.
And what was the reason for that?
Because Max was sitting there having breakfast before school, and that's what he was watching.
And did he ever ask you, because I always want to know this from all of you parents, did he ever ask you about anything that he was hearing? Did he make comments about anything?
No.
Were you worried about him hearing some of this?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Somebody brought it up the other day, and this is, it was like 3 or 4 days ago, someone said, I know that my son and daughter hear these things. Mm-hmm. And I think, what am I doing to them? Am I harming them? Right? You have to look at what they're drawing and things that mm-hmm. suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, where'd you get that from? We got it from the news. Mm-hmm. Now, because your son is 16, he'll be 17 in February. So he doesn't turn on the TV for news.
No.
He gets probably notifications on his phone, though, of things that are
yes.
going on. So Zach just told us, I knew about the school shooting because he got a notification. Mm-hmm. They have their notifications turned on, those. So they still have the horrific news that's mm-hmm. in the world. But, choosing quickly to I don't want this. And I understand people say, well, you could choose to turn the news off, but it was just all around us.
Right.
Right? So we're talking about how different the world is. So between all of us here, we're going to look at our generations. We got a great slide for all of you that wondered, what are you? And I know sometimes I've seen some of these that I was like, oh, well, I've never even heard of that one. But you and I are in the same generation. Here it is. So our generation is Gen X. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk with the rest of my team who are in the Gen Z. Right? We need some millennials to weigh in. I want to talk to the greatest generation. Right? I love the fact that they're even known as the greatest generation.
That's
the lost generation, what the heck? I think they're lost. My mother is the silent generation, but Michelle also, again, because it depends on what you look at, did you say it also is known as the swing generation?
The greatest generation is the swing generation.
Oh, okay. So my mom.
But when I looked at it online, it was different because I looked up 1930s.
And I know, that's what I'm saying.
It said she is the greatest generation.
Right.
So
it depends on what slide you... See, that's what I get frustrated by. Because people will go, wait, I thought I was this. I know. So boomers, we hear a lot about boomers. That's saying, at least on this slide, that it's 46 to 64.
That's
so
my
again,
mom.
if you're a boomer, weigh in mm-hmm. On some of these things that we're going to talk about today. But at least on this slide, you and I are Gen X. So we're going to go back during our time, and then I'm going to leave you in here, and I'm going to bring one of our Gen Zs in mm-hmm. to see if we can bridge the gap between disconnect or what they're feeling that we wish we knew more about, etc. So we've
back
got
in time.
Huh? The what?
We're going back in time.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go back in time. So they all gave me yesterday some of the topics they want to talk about, and feel free, by the way, to drop in anything that you remember from your time that you've talked to your kids and grandkids about. Saying the biggest thing that probably you and I remember, I guess you did. I walked to school. No, mm-hmm. I walked home from school. I was driven to school, but walked home for school. And you used to always hear people say, I walked home 5 miles in the snow, up and down hills, etc. Mm-hmm. We did.
Yeah.
Can you imagine parents now letting their kids walk even a couple blocks by themselves?
No. I walked to my elementary school. And I had to go through a real sketchy wooded area because my neighborhood backed up to the school. So I had to go, a couple blocks and then through sketchy wooded area.
Yeah. But we trusted.
Right. And then I had to go to middle school and high school. I had to go down, like through the neighborhood, down this long hill to this major, like, throughway and wait for the bus there. Like, nowhere near, like, my house. It was far.
And one of the things, Michelle...
They would never let kids do that now.
No, well, we're going to talk about, again, I want to talk with our other generations to see if they would even feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Michelle said, and I think it's very poignant, is that we grew up in a time that was more trusting, maybe naive. I hope not. I mean, I think it was just more trusting, more innocent. Jim brought up a good point when I was telling him what we were going to discuss, and he said, we all left our doors unlocked.
Right. Right.
Well, you trusted.
Yeah.
Does anybody do that anymore?
No.
I mean, literally, my mom laughs because I'll walk in the house and lock the door right away, and she's like, Monica, I'm coming in and out of the house. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. It's just natural that
habit.
You don't trust anymore.
Yeah.
We've got some props on the table that we're going to talk about here in just a second as well. But what did you appreciate most about the generation we grew up in?
What did I appreciate most? I think just going out and playing with my friends.
Yes, being outside, right? There's a
outside.
great picture because what I remember is immediately coming home. Yeah, I got to do your homework. You can go outside. Now we're going to call you in for dinner. Well, I mean, think about the dinner bells that they used to have. I mean, I didn't have those, but maybe my parents, etc. Now we're going back even more, right? So you would play and play and play. Kickball. We were on our bikes riding around. We were acting like roller skating. We were acting like we were characters. I played Chips. Because I used to love watching Punch and John. So my friend next door, I'll have to give this to Kathy, who lived next door to me. We would do that, and she always wanted to be Punch, and I said no. And she's like, "Do I ever get to be Punch?" And I said, "No, you will always be John." We also made cardboard boxes. I don't remember. We were doing something with sugar, and we dyed the sugar, and we were eating that. It's just crazy creative things that, yes, kids are still creative now, but they're not outside hours and hours and hours, especially when it gets dark. We were gone.
Yeah.
The parents trusted. They're somewhere. You didn't have these to check in. So can you all imagine, and this is what I want our next generation to be talking about, can you imagine being out and not being able to get a hold of your kid? You have no idea where they are until they come home. And you trusted that they would come home.
Yes. So we were very trusting. Our parents were very trusting. We didn't have stranger danger back then.
No, and actually, one of the things
that was a newer. That was more of a newer thing. That was not
our generation.
No,
I remember
we were told adults were safe,
and you respected them,
and you respected them,
and you respected the police, and the police would come in and talk for career day, and it was officer friendly. Come on, all of you. Do you look at officers and call them officer friendly, or have so much of the world turned away from them, which is what we saw? I think it's starting to come back. And thank you, by the way, for everyone that stops my husband to say, thank you for what you do. I am hearing it more, almost because I think the news just painted such a horrible portrayal of our police, men and women. Are there some bad ones? Yes. But there's bad in everything. We just hope it's a smaller percentage of things. So what did I appreciate most? It made us tough, right? You and I talked about something that I want to go into, which was spankings.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
What was the worst thing that you were spanked with?
A belt.
My mom smacked me with, okay, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm going to be real, with the hose that came off of your washer. Do you know that rubber hose?
Ow!
Thank you!
Hey!
And a ping pong paddle. And then my dad would go to get the belt off, and I was a brat because I would go, I can get away from him faster than he can get that belt off, and I would run. And there I was going around the blocks going, if I stay away long enough, maybe he'll just forget.
You tired.
And I got lucky. I timed it well. Yeah, I got lucky. But yeah, Mom, that sweet, innocent mother. Yeah.
She's little, though. I don't know if she could get much weight behind that. I don't know.
She did. Trust me.
Jackie.
Okay, but what did those, and again, you're all going to disagree with what was done back then. And by our teachers, our nuns, because I went to a Catholic school, they would smack us on the back of the knuckles with rulers. Can you imagine your teachers today even putting a hand on the kids.
I got tied to a chair.
I got put under. Okay, thank you for saying this. This is what's going to be fun. My teacher in second grade put me underneath her desk. And I had to sit under there. That was my, and her stinky shoes were underneath there.
Gross.
Right? And I sat there and I took her shoes and I was a brat. And I would go and I would walk them and make them laugh and then I would put them back. Monica.
Oh, she had her shoes kicked off?
Yes,
Ew.
because she would change shoes and then her shoes
Ew.
would be under the desk.
Oh, gross.
All these crazy, silly things
that's
that we're
torture.
talking about with generational talk. If you're just tuning in, Michelle's joining me. We're talking about our generation, what we went through. I do want one of them to weigh in to say, what? These things happen to you? What would happen again today if those things happened to you? So good morning to all of you.
Tia's over there laughing at
She
us.
is laughing. I can't wait to bring her in to talk about this. Okay, so Michelle mentioned that we grew up in the 70s and 80s in a wired world, okay? So we had phones, but those phones were attached to the walls, and you could only get as far as the cord would stretch. I would almost pull that out of the wall.
And then the cord would like get all tangled up, and you'd have to stand up on a chair and drop so it would untangle itself. And it would just spin, and then you'd put it back on the wall. But if ever you wanted to find your mom, you would just follow the cord.
And that was, look, you remember those phones? Those were so cool.
I thought that picture was funny.
I love that. That actually reminds me of a Swatch watch. Do you all remember Swatch watches? Which, by the way, I think have made a comeback.
Oh, really?
I saw them at the airport. Oh. Yes. Well, let's talk about that, how things do make a comeback, right? So the things we're talking about today, I don't know. Will phones like that ever come back? How many, by the way, how many of you even have a home phone number?
No, not anymore.
How long ago did you get rid of yours?
Well, we no longer needed a fax machine. That was probably 7, 8 years ago.
My mom still has hers, but I think we finally talked her into saying, do you really need that? It's just an extra expense. Everybody can just use these. She used to worry, oh, am I using too many minutes? I need my home phone. Okay, so we lived in a wired world. We had TVs, but the remotes were connected to the TV, if you were lucky. That's what I'm used to. But what were we told if we got that close to the TV?
Oh, you're going to make your eyes crossed.
And then, by the way, for all of you gamers, that was how we gamed. All these cords, and it was like, it was so slow.
But it made you stay in one area.
Yes.
Well, most families only had one TV.
Well, that's what Jim brought up. He was like, and that's what they looked like.
Yeah.
That if
It was a piece of furniture.
mom and they were
massive.
heavy.
Massive.
If mom and dad were watching TV, then you just dealt with it and you didn't get to play games. What was the first? Was it Atari? And then in television? I think so. And I just remember.
I had Atari.
So did we. Yeah. And then my next door neighbors had in television, and I thought they were rich. We're going to go through all these things, and we're like, if you had this, we feel like you were rich. Okay, VCRs, Betamax, video games, all wired to your TV. So what did it do? It made us focus on being in home with our families.
Yeah.
And Zach has some really great ones. We're going into the holidays, obviously. So he's got a Christmas Story on here, which I just watched. It's a Wonderful Life, my absolute favorite Christmas
Look at these
movie.
things.
Right? Do you all know what those are?
things.
Beckett, do you know what this looks like? What is this? Right? Do you know what
a brick.
8-track? Tia, do you know what an 8-track tape is? Oh, she just did it. See? Good.
She's got this wrinkly face like, what?
So my mom had Pink Floyd on an 8-track. I'll never forget that. Look, my mom, she likes Pink Floyd.
She does.
So, yeah, 8-track
does.
cassettes, VHS tapes, those kind of video games. That's what we had. Again, we talked about a trusting world. We walked to school by ourselves or to or from, or danger we didn't know. Like we trusted anyone that came up with us.
Any adult.
But it's a good thing. My friend Julie used to work in Parks and Recreation, and she used to, and I hated doing this, she used to have me come and be the stranger to all the young kids that were in camp. And I would come up and say, I got a puppy. Do you want to see the puppy? Yeah. Even though they were literally just taught that day before. Now remember, if somebody comes up to you and approaches you, you don't go with them, right? No. Oh, they did. And all of a sudden they were like, wait, where are you going? Oh, she's got a puppy. And they're like, what did we just tell you? Oh, and then they looked at me like, you got us in trouble. And then one day it was like, ice cream. I got ice cream.
Lady.
Right? But some
lady.
of them would question, like, I don't know. And I'm like, it's okay. No, they said it was okay, right? It's just that quick. But what can we transfer that to today? It's all the scammers on our elderly. I got something the other day, and I'm like, see, I know people would click on this, and it's from supposedly I think it was United States Postal Service or UPS that I needed to cut and paste, and I'm like, no, this is not real.
Yep.
Right, all of those things. That's the danger.
The show gets spammed and scammed.
Yep.
Often.
Yeah.
That's why we have to have moderators.
Bullies. Our bullies when we were younger were in-person bullies.
Yeah. As soon as you left school, you were done with them. Now, the bullies are on the phone.
On the phone, on your, whatever
your
you are on. Yeah, unfortunately.
You can't escape them.
These are good ones Michelle has. If it was not an on-demand world, if you weren't in front of the TV at 9 a.m., you missed what?
Oh, you missed Sesame Street. You missed it. And that was just heartbreaking. Like it taught you time management. So you couldn't hit pause.
Yep.
You couldn't hit replay. And they didn't replay shows back then.
Correct.
So that was it. If you missed that show, you missed that show. There was no like on demand click, and you can watch it again.
Have you? So for all of you that watch the Thanksgiving parade, the Grouch and all of that from Sesame Street were there. They haven't aged.
No. They have not.
They all look the same.
They look fantastic.
Big Bird. I was like, hey, you haven't even aged. So yeah, Sesame Street. If you weren't there at 9 o'clock, you missed it. Electric Company.
And then
all
commercial
of that.
breaks.
Do you remember Electric Company?
Oh, I remember Electric Company.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
was in Electric Company.
What were some of the shows that you all remember growing up?
But then the commercial breaks too. Like you had to bolt out of there. If you had to go to the bathroom and get a snack, you had to bolt and then come back and fly over the couch and sit.
No pause button.
No pause button. Okay. Show's starting back up.
And I was thinking about cassettes, by the way, earlier. The same thing would apply for your favorite song. You wanted to catch your favorite song. I would get frustrated at the DJs.
Oh, you were sitting there with the record play button, just waiting.
And waiting for the DJ to shut up.
Stop talking over the song.
So for those of us that were in radio, we learned to talk, and you were ramping up to the beginning of the first word. But to someone who wants the entire song, you were like, no, shut up. Again, we would have the press play and pause and record, and then you would just hit the record.
Yep.
How about all those tapes that you would then try to rewind, and then they would get all and you get it all messed up.
Take a pencil.
With a pencil.
Take a pencil.
The eraser on the pencil. Yes. Okay, we couldn't just watch a show when we wanted, right? We had to share TV time or learn how to program the VCR. And here's what Jim wanted to say. Have you ever done this? Because I was like, you sound like you're speaking from firsthand experience. Did you all have tapes, and then you're like, I want to record my favorite show, and you didn't check to see what was on that tape? Jim taped over something that was very important of his dad's, but I know story upon story of people that they taped over somebody's wedding reception or their wedding. I was like, you can't get that back.
Nope.
These are the crazy things. All right, hang on, let's look here.
Well, I got to tape Magnum PI, so... And then the wedding.
We're going to get into movies, by the way, before we bring our next generation. And Julie Purcell said Captain Kangaroo. Yes, Romper Room, which, by the way, for those of you that are younger, if you work out on a big fitness ball, that's what it looked like at Romper Room. They had those bouncy balls. It looks like the fitness balls that we work out on now. Somebody else said Romper Room. Yes. Miss Lois would always reach for the stars. What?
Miss Lois would reach for the stars.
I don't know that one, Luann. Howdy Doody. Oh, I kind of remember Howdy Doody. Do you know Howdy Doody?
Yeah, I know it.
But she just said, yes, I am older. Let's see. I still have a variety of movies, yes. A younger generation, how to use a dial phone. Okay, so there's a really cool skit of putting that in front of a younger generation, and they're like, what do I do with it?
Trying to push on it.
Exactly. Donna, I did have a landline phone, but got rid of the phone due to the cost and the fact that everything is fiber. So now when power goes out, the landline goes out too. One of the reasons I kept it, still have some of the old phones. Some of you have backup generators for these things. Marilyn says, I have a home phone number. I still have a pink princess phone and one in the kitchen on a wall. I love it. Okay, somebody else said they still have a landline. When I was in second grade, I was almost abducted, not once but twice, not heard of in the early 60s. I was taken to the police station by an officer, no adult, no parent with me to look at a lineup. So scary, but things were so unknown, dealt with real well at that time. That's Marilyn.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see. Kathleen said she had tape across her mouth in first grade.
Oh, yep.
See?
Yep.
Kathleen said, I remember teachers having wooden paddles at school, and the nuns using them. Yes. All of these things that we think were so bad. Marilyn said she thought she was a baby boomer. Again, we showed you that slide earlier of what you think you are. Julie said she's a baby boomer in 63. It really got to the chief of police when he found the call from a second grader. Oh, yeah. That's back to the school shooting. Mm-hmm. It's so sad that this country is coming to these school shootings. Well, it's sad just to see what the world has become. Mm-hmm. So that's what we want to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We want to start bringing the other generation in. So how about we start with Zach? Zach Kimball has some interesting topics that he wants to talk about, and I want you to listen. One of the biggest things that I want in this brand new segment called Generational Talk is listen to the younger generation. Don't dismiss them. Don't say they're lazy. All the things, and I want you to have more awareness. Maybe an aha right now for parents to come back home and give the kids more of a hug. When you hear what they have to say, what are they concerned about? So we're going to have Zach in the blue chair with Michelle and I when we return. This is my wonderful role model, one of my best friends.
She's, oh my gosh, you got a long life. You could probably live to be 130 or something. And I said, oh God, I hope not.
It's getting hot in here. Yeah. Don't take off all your clothes.
I'm not going to take off my clothes. On the radio tape, going to
Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. We're gonna speak. We're not gonna spank anybody. We're gonna speak about knowing your value, and then I'm gonna.
I'm going to spank them.
If you don't know your value and you don't grab hold of how important you are, I'm gonna spank you. Folks, you never know what you're gonna get with her.
Monica's show. It's very informational, but more importantly, inspirational.
People such as myself and others can come out and talk about real issues that are taking place in our communities.
These are amazing, really, really important topics that don't get discussed enough.
It really just promotes people who are making change and doing good in their lives.
And welcome back. If you're just tuning in, don't go anywhere. You're going to enjoy this. I want you to be as interactive with us as possible. Get your friends up, get your parents up, get your grandparents up, and ask them, hey, what were the biggest things from your generation? So we're talking about generational talk. Michelle and I just kicked it off. And again, we're going to do this on a regular basis and crack up, maybe even cry to remember things that happen, and then have this awareness and aha. I now want to blend the generations, which is what I want with each and every one of you. Listen to your kids. Listen to the younger generation, and we're going to bridge the gap of the disconnect. Sometimes it happens with an older generation. So Zach Kimball, who you hear me talk about a lot, is in the blue chair with Michelle and myself. Before we get into some of the topics you wanted to discuss, anything that resonated with you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Monica.
Of course.
It's always a pleasure. But yeah, just a few of the things, some similarities between the generations. I walked to school from third to fifth grade. We lived probably 3 blocks away from the middle school, or I guess it'd be elementary school at that point.
Okay.
So every day I'd walk to school. When I was first doing it, my mom would accompany me, but it got to a point where I was just doing it myself. Yeah, and it was fairly popular. It was by some roads and stuff.
And you grew up in
Edwardsville, Illinois.
Okay, so at a point, Mom and you both trusted. You never felt scared being by yourself?
Not really. No, it was just walking to school, and I didn't really see too many people. There was a nice crossing guard lady. Shout out to crossing guard Sandy in Edwardsville.
Hi, Sandy.
She would help get the kids across the street safely, and just say hi and see how you're doing. And so I have a lot of fond memories of that. So.
Yeah, if you didn't hear earlier, we were talking about how we all walked to school or walked home from school, and it could be, I don't know, miles worth, which it was for us, rain, snow, etc., and it had to be done because Parents were at school. Parents were at work, excuse me, and they didn't have it. You had to walk home from school. We also talked about spanking.
I was spanked as a child. No belts or washing machine
Rubber hoses.
or anything like that. But
Just the bare hand.
Just the hand. Yeah.
What do you think it taught?
To not get caught. No.
Respect?
Yeah, I think so. When there's that threat of if you mess up and you do what you're not supposed to, you get physically punished.
Consequences.
Correct.
Consequences.
But
yeah.
when did you go stand in the corner become the transfer?
Yeah, timeout.
Right?
I don't know. I did also have my fair share of timeouts
Timeout,
as well.
yeah.
No toys or nothing. You just
Were
sit
you
in the corner.
grounded?
I didn't really get maybe a couple times, like, oh, you can't play your video games for
Yeah.
a week or whatever, but not a whole lot.
So let's talk about that. Grounded. Were you all grounded? What did that do for you? Did you get an allowance? Was the allowance taken away? Did you get an allowance?
I did, but I worked for it.
Yes.
I had to do I was an only child, so I had to do all the chores.
We didn't get an allowance. We just did the chores.
Yeah.
Period. It's like you don't get an allowance.
Yeah.
Other people, I was like, you're getting money for this? Did you get an allowance?
I did get an allowance, but we had to help with dishes and the lawn and stuff like that. So.
And now as you're older, do you thank your parents for having you do all that?
Sure. It taught me how to save money, if there was something I wanted, I'd have to save up for it. Oh, I could get this little thing now, or if I held on to it, I'd get something big later in the future. And I do think it taught me smart money management.
Absolutely. And all these things that are not taught in school that need to be taught by parents. I do want to say this. I don't know who Charlotte Peters is. Marilyn said, do you remember Charlotte Peters' first local talk show here in St. Louis? I thought it was Sally Jesse Raphael, which used to be held in the Channel 5 studios.
Oh, I didn't
Do you all
know that.
remember that? We were in awe, she said, when my mom was in the audience. I don't know Charlotte Peters. So let's see, Mr. Patches, local show, don't know that either. I do remember Guy Phillips, who was on Y98. He was, anybody help me with this? I was like a little wizard character or something that he was. Do you know what I'm talking about? So, yes,
I didn't grow up here, so I
that's
don't
right.
know.
So
Well, before
Guy
my time.
Phillips, everybody, do you remember that? Tell me what the name of the show was. Marilyn said, side note, okay, prayers for my friend Leona, very difficult day today. Yes, and so those of you that know,
We're thinking
if you
of
know,
you,
you know.
Leona.
We're thinking of you. All right, generational talk. Okay, so let's get into what Zach wanted to discuss. So Zach, we wanted to bring up a couple of things. One of which, and this will be a very interesting topic that I think we're going to have to go deeper into in future shows. And I'm going to hold back here for just a second because I want to know what he has to say about this. COVID. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, what do you have to say about COVID?
COVID, I think it affected each generation differently. I mean, sure, everybody has their own story, but I think, like my generation, we were in school when it happened, as opposed to, being graduated or even being like elementary or middle school. I was finishing up my associate's degree at community college, transferring to SIUE. When COVID happened, during all the lockdowns and everything like that. So I felt very isolated, very alone. There's a slide in there if you want to take it, Hannah, of a Zoom call, a Zoom class. And that's what I saw for college. Except imagine more blank boxes without webcams.
Now all of you that have younger kids, that's what your younger kids had to go through, right? So grade school, high school, college, that's how we worked. We were all home. How long were you home?
In terms of like...
How long did you have to do that for school?
So let's see. That would have been probably about a year and a half. I think fall of 21 is when they started bringing people back in person. So, I'm expecting the college experience. And SIU is not a party school by any means, but at least some of the college experience of getting
Social
to...
aspects.
Yeah, fraternize and join the clubs and all the activities on campus. But it was just... logging into a Zoom window. I wouldn't even get out of bed some mornings. I'd just lie on my side and
No
log
pants.
in. Yeah, there we go.
Did you pay attention?
No.
Right.
No.
That is the
That's-
biggest thing that we all heard
yeah,
when I did
problem.
the news. It was, are these kids even showing up? What were they putting on the screen? I mean, I don't know how they monitored all that, but we go back to that time. I was only home for 3 months. I broadcast from home. All of us, except for one person, was actually allowed in the studio. Then they brought a couple of us back. So I enjoyed it, being home for a few months. I thought it was fascinating that we were able to do news for you from our home. And all of us learning, actually, it taught us a lot of things that we now do on our own of how we can broadcast from literally anywhere. I look at the Zoom and think all of the positives that have come out of it and how we can connect all over the world. But I do think it took, and it's something that almost 5 years later we are still talking about, it took its toll on what?
Mental health. Yep.
Yes. So, what can you pull from a positive out of that time period, and what do you think is the thing you're maybe still struggling with?
A positive out of it. It made me appreciate getting to see people more, and interact with my classmates. I tell the story, so I'm sure all the young students out there, if you had to do a discussion board online before, where you have to write your thoughts about something, and then somebody else has to comment on it. And I hated doing it. Just felt like I was gotta do this work, gotta come up with something. But after getting to be in person and getting to discuss with my classmates and see them face to face and hear their opinions, it made me appreciate that much more than having to do everything online.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask this from someone who, I'm going to separate two things. One, the news side of me, of what we covered during that time period, and then just also from a personal side, what did you feel about the world being shut down and people not being able to be by the bedside of their loved ones dying, husbands not being able to be by their wives as a baby was born, people losing their jobs completely, the entire world being shut down, what the government told us that now they've come back and said, well, we didn't know, we were wrong, vaccinations that were forced upon people, the things that came from those vaccinations that we still to this day, folks, I'm telling you, do not even know the deep issues that may still be coming up. But all those things, and now COVID still exists, yet we're all running around and everything's okay. So what are your thoughts on that as a younger generation?
I think I don't think anybody knew what was going on. And I think, it's better to be safe than sorry. But, if you don't look at the long-term consequences, you don't want it to come back later. I will say I didn't, how do I want to word this? I didn't really get to quarantine at home. I still had to work. I still had to do school. So life changed a little bit for me, but it wasn't completely different. But as for, not being able to be in the hospital rooms and not being able to work and everything like that, I think we just have to wait to see how that plays out. I mean, that's going to be the future that I have to live in, and the world and the economy. That's just what I'm going to have to live in as a young adult.
Now, what about the trust factor?
That's what I mean.
Do
Many
you trust
people
the government?
we were lied to.
Yeah.
And that's come out. That's a true thing, that we were lied to. And you just look at everything that was lost. People that lost so much, from personal to their livelihood. And that is, to me, one of the biggest things that we can discuss. But this is where I really am wanting to do this show of, what were you thinking? What are you thinking? I mean, all of you can weigh in on this as well. If anybody has a comment about this. I was still a school secretary. It was about 15 years, Julie just said. I'm not sure what that has to do with. But again, weigh in on that if you want to. Some people may not want to, because when you mention the word COVID, which is why when he brought this up as a topic, I was like, okay, this will be interesting to talk about. Most people don't want to discuss COVID because it becomes polarized, right? That was the number one word right? Polarization.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, what are your thoughts on this? Because we just did it in the news of something. Let's say you are out with friends, your girlfriend, a bunch of friends, and you see somebody, and then they don't like your sweater that you have on, all right? And they start to bully you. And then he's so calm and even keel that maybe this doesn't, but maybe somebody in your friend party was like, hey, dude, right? Don't go off on my dude. I'm going to protect him. And a fight ensues. What used to be a fist fight. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you'd buy a beer for the person about 5 seconds later, and you don't even know what the fight was about. We are now in a generation, it's too easy to go out in a car, grab a gun, and come back in and shoot that person. Right? So where do you think that happened? The disregard for human life.
I don't know. Because I feel like, why couldn't that have happened 50 years ago? People, carry guns. So where was that change? And I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think it's the thing is, and you all can weigh in, or if you know somebody that's younger, weigh in on this. He's not that person.
Yeah,
I'm not that person. You're not. I don't actually have anybody on my team that I know of that all of a sudden would just
I think
fly
Hannah's
off the
got a
handle.
dark side.
Yeah.
Hannah's
Yeah.
coming in next, by the way. I don't think Hannah has a dark side. I don't know. It's the quiet ones. You
It
never
is
know
the quiet
about.
ones.
But somehow in this generational talk, as we continue this series, I want to find out where what Boone Cutler, who sat in this blue chair, the author of the book, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, how it goes from literally polarization to dehumanizing to killing, that it just can escalate that far. There was a story several months ago, maybe, I don't know, I lose track of time, but about a year ago, of a person who was on 141 during rush hour in the morning, and there was road rage that took place, which again, road rage, that wasn't a thing. Right, we just drove along. Right, we didn't cut people off and flip them off and all these different things that we were trying to do on the roadways. But if you all don't remember that story that happened a handful of months ago, it was road rage and then stopped at a light, and then the guy had this altercation in the middle of rush hour traffic, flicked his cigarette at the guy, which normally you'd be like, whatever, and you'd pull off. The guy turned around and shot him.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. How did we get to that point? And is that what's coming for us? Because what we all have to do is look at the generations that are coming. So you can look at being in your 20s. You want to tell everybody how old you are?
I just turned 25 back in November.
Okay.
So I'm
So
the
he's-
mid-20s
Yes.
part of the team that you
So
mentioned.
he's in the mid-20s, but you can look at someone, if you have nieces or nephews or anybody, it's, well, hey, can we teach you this? Because this is the next generation of that. That's what I'm wanting to do.
Yeah.
Before we bring Hannah in, and some of these, and you have another topic that I'm going to table. What was your other topic?
It was on AI, the
Yeah.
viewpoint from each generation.
That's a whole nother
That,
show.
and that's why I didn't want to do
that's a
that
good
one today, because that is something that we've been kind of just dropping in over the last year of AI. So in our next one, we're going to have Zach actually start with us to talk about AI. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Is it going to be beneficial for us? Are you scared by it? Because we've talked a little bit about it when we did this a year and a half ago. I think my friend Sherry brought it up and said, this is not a good thing. Then I think she's maybe changed her mind a little bit. A lot of you are on ChatGPT. Some people use it regularly and they don't even want to write anymore. And I just go, hey, AI, I'm going to put, here's a scenario, write it up for me. Now, is it used a lot in schools? Those are the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So we'll table that. Make sure that you start that with me going forward. Now, I just lost my train of thought. What I wanted to say to you. Oh, I know. So before we bring Hannah in, what do you hope that our generation and generations even older than us know about your generation, and what part of respect do you want for us to have for your generation?
I guess I want you to know, and you've kind of touched on it before, but, we are hard workers. We, sure we have our phones all the time, but we can do so much. I mean, you look at Tia, she's turning around stuff in like 10 minutes. And, we're willing to show up. I'm not a morning person, but every Monday and Tuesday for the past year and a half, I've crawling out of bed at 5 a.m. and driving out to Brentwood to put on a great show, and I love it.
Good.
We appreciate that.
I was just going to, those words that he just spoke, if you didn't love it, you wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
He very easily could be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? And he could just give up. So yes, I will agree with this, and I think that is one of the biggest things of generational talk that can happen is she and I appreciate the younger generation. But I know a lot of people in our age group that are like, whatever, they don't understand, they're lazy. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, those that I've chosen to be on my team, they're here when they need to be, they're working here and beyond this. So I don't know, there's, just like we talked about, there are bad apples in the police. Yeah, there might be a portion of it. But I'm sure it happened with our generation as well.
I think every older generation thinks that of the younger generation. Yeah,
that we're
we
not
had
as
it
tough.
harder, and they're not as tough, and we worked harder, and
But we're trying to wipe that comment away, so that we can just kind of blend it together. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we do respect you. And And I hope mutually.
Yeah. Oh, of course. No, I
That's
respect
respect.
you guys a
To me,
lot,
it's the
yeah.
biggest thing you have to get out of today's show. Okay, we're going to bring Hannah in. Hannah and Tia, actually, both of their very first things that they gave to me when they wanted to say, here's some of the topics, has to do with this. Okay, we're going to talk about cell phones. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Ghosting is something I want to talk about. And I don't know which one of these girls want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about ghosting as well. Stay tuned. Hannah Ledford will be in the blue chair when we return. He wants to say, I can't believe I took your son's life. I don't know what I was thinking. I have so much regret and remorse. I've changed my life. Would you accept that apology?
I've never thought of that. Yeah. Yeah, I would.
Do you think, because you talk about forgiveness, do you think that you all can ever forgive one another and come back together?
It wasn't just right. I'm not perfect. Just because my name is Bush, I don't have it all figured out. And I think they know that too.
I was cyclically depressed, so I could be the happiest person you ever met at 11 a.m. I could be on cloud 9, and by 7 p.m. that evening, I'd be sitting on a couch with a gun in my hand and thinking hard not to get emotional. I
Never feel sorry for being emotional.
I really, I was at a space to where I couldn't believe that I had brought my children into this.
Where's the light? Because many of you probably feel that there's this darkness and there's this thunder cloud that's constantly over you. This family has dealt with so much.
So our journey is our journey. There has to be purpose in this pain. There has to be something more powerful. I have to find something to be blessed about every day. I have to count my blessings and have gratitude every single day.
Welcome back, 7:57. We're going to go a little longer today because we are introducing a new segment called Generational Talk. Michelle and I kicked it off. We're in the same generation. And then one by one, we're going through the generation that is in their 20s. But weigh in if you are in an older generation. I would also like you, if you haven't dropped the kids off yet, ask them to weigh in, because if they're in grade school or high school, or let them know that we're going to be doing this regularly, and email me, info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com. Have them weigh in and say, hey, Monica wants to know what you hope the other generations know about your generation, and teach them. And by the way, let's put that slide up again, because depending on what you look at is going to tell you where you fall in the generation. So we, again, are Gen X, 1965 to 1980. I was born in 71. Michelle was in 70. Zach just told you he's in his mid-20s, so they are in Gen Z, the 1997 to 2012 time period. Beckett would have been born, what is Beckett now? He's 15?
I think, yeah, he just turned 15.
Okay, so the Gen Z, I'd like to hear some from millennials, because a lot of the talk that made me think about doing this segment was all about, those millennials, which, by the way, is also Gen Y. And they get blamed a lot. And then I used to hear about boomers. A lot of talk about boomers and millennials. But what about all the rest of us? There's your, whatever you're labeled as, according to that particular slide. Again, some of the things may change on this. Let's continue, though, between the Gen X and Gen Z generation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was Y in there that just confused me. Why did it confuse me? Okay, so now we've got Hannah Ledford in. So, Hannah, anything that we've talked about so far that you were sitting in there, she was directing, by the way, so she's learning how to direct. Anything in there that made you, what'd you say you were nervous?
I was trying my best.
You did great.
You did good.
Oh, hey.
Oh, you did
Yeah,
great.
yeah, but give yourself some grace, right? That's one thing we've learned. Every generation needs to learn. While you were sitting in there listening, was there anything that stood out that you were like, hey, I want to talk about that?
Not necessarily. I think talking about the COVID thing was very interesting, and I like that you brought that up, but I'm not the most informed on stuff like that, so I didn't feel I have anything to add.
Wait, so how long were you at home learning from home?
Well, in high school, that was probably a year.
Okay.
And then going into college, we were on and off. And then, so it was a year completely at home in high school, and then it was like on and off for the rest of high school. So about 2 years in high school with that, and then it was the first 2 years of college where it was like on and off.
What did that do to you?
It honestly kind of taught me accountability because, like, I had to pretty much teach myself everything. And especially going into college and, like, learning completely new things, like, there's not as much help, and you can't, like, talk to students and ask questions
Very good
anymore,
point.
so you...
And you taught yourself well, by the way. She's extremely intelligent. I'm very impressed by this one.
Thank you.
So, Hannah, well, some people were saying about a year and a half. Oh, okay. Diane just asked if you could please show the slide again. Diane, tell me, without telling me your age, tell me where you are in that, because she's a regular viewer of the show. We love Diane. So there you go, Diane. You can figure out yours. The previous link is of Charlotte Peters' show, FYI. Oh, okay, thank you. So a link was dropped in. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I don't know about Charlotte Peters, but we're looking at all these different generations and kind of getting an aha of what someone else before us had. Well, we did not have this. Okay, let's just say this, right? We didn't have this thing that's in my hand right now. In fact, have you ever been in front of a rotary phone? Would you know what to do with it? Okay.
I know how to use a rotary phone. I think you'd be surprised how many Gen Z can use a rotary phone.
Well, I just know that there's a skit out there that's just hilarious because they were like, what do we punch? How do you do that?
Well, and they didn't know that they had to pick up the handle first and then dial. They were like trying to do it without picking up the handle.
Well, and for I still don't understand it all, but so for us, we would dial 0 for an operator. We also, there was like an information line. We would get time and temperature from that. I don't remember what that was. If you all can tell me that. But the generation in front of us, they wouldn't say like our numbers 314, blah, 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 blah. It was letters.
Yeah.
And then it was like a phrase or something, which
like
I still don't understand.
Alpha 217.
Yes.
Something like that.
All right, all of you that did that, explain that to me because I still don't really get that. But okay, so I'm just teasing you. So you know what a rotary phone is, but what do you think changed for all of you? When did you get your first one of these? I'm obviously holding up a cell phone.
Well, in middle school, I got a little flip phone, so I wasn't as cool as everyone else because I didn't have an iPhone, but my mom wanted, me to be safe and, like, be able to contact people. So then in high school, I got my first iPhone.
And what do you all think about that? See, because I hear that, and I don't have kids, but I was like, how early do you give a kid a phone? And what are we teaching that, right? So when did your son get a phone?
He was in middle school, but I think he was one of the later ones out of all of his friends.
How early do you think somebody should get a phone?
I think middle school, because I did know people in, like, 3rd and 4th grade that were, like, bringing phones to school, and I was like, what do you even do with that?
Right. And then what does happen? Because I don't know. I don't have kids. So you have your phone, and then do you have to put it away? You have to silent it? What takes place? Or can you leave it out?
No, whenever I was in school, you had to keep it away.
Okay.
You couldn't really have it out.
Now, I think from a protection standpoint, and we think about, again, it's horrific, but that 2nd grader that called police about the shooting that happened in Madison, Wisconsin yesterday, I think it's a good thing that there are phones there for them from a safety aspect. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just so easy that I just think you can cheat. You have it there.
Yeah, you can.
Right?
You definitely can.
I don't know. It's all changed so much. So Tia and Hannah both said. So Hannah said, here's a couple of topics I thought of. The different ways of communicating. Texting, calling, talking in person, and why some generations prefer certain ways. So what is your preference in your generation? Well, and you can only speak for yourself, obviously. We'll ask Tia in a second. But what is your preferred method of communication?
You know what? It really depends on the person, the relationship that I have with them. Like for school, I use a lot of email.
Okay.
Like I email a lot. With like work, it's usually text or phone calls. And with work stuff, I prefer to be in person because I hate just getting a super long text message when I'm like at a different job and I'm all of a sudden I have to like figure out and like think about this other job that I'm doing. So I feel like there's more of a work-life balance whenever you're not communicating like through text.
Right.
When it comes to work. When it comes to like personal like relationships, probably text or calls.
So what do you all think? Because, and I want Michelle to weigh in on this. We were in a generation, and all the generations before us, that communication is key.
We wrote letters.
Yes. Well, again, pen pals. What a cool thing, by the way.
Pen pals.
Oh, I'm so glad you have a pen pal right now?
No, I had one when I was a kid.
I mean, again, look, writing on paper, novel idea. Putting it in a little envelope, sending that, going to the mailbox and seeing something from a pen pal. This is my beef right now. And no one does it anymore. And so I kind of just stopped. I'm like, whatever. I used to write Christmas cards like crazy. Yeah. True Christmas cards, long letters to people, what they meant. I'm going to ask a couple things here, and it'll be interesting to see what the generations say. The pictures that are already done by whoever, and we're not going to give a plug to anybody, and nothing written whatsoever, nothing. Do you like that?
As a Christmas card?
Yes. Or would you prefer something on there be personalized?
Well, yeah, but also all the Christmas cards that I get are from like my parents' friends, so I don't know them at all. So it's kind of just a picture. And if there was words, I'd be like, this doesn't mean anything to me.
What about from your friends?
I
Do they even send them?
No, I probably wouldn't get a Christmas
There's
card.
another one. See, so the younger generation do not send Christmas cards. I liked the old ones that were actually just regular Christmas cards. I thought it was really cool when you were able to start personalizing them. Does anybody read the typed up letters that people send about what they've had? I'm sorry. I'm just going to go there. And you probably know who you are if you watch this show, but I got one the other day that felt like it was a book. God love you. I'm not going to say who you are. 5 of them, front and back, pictures all over the place.
Both
and
sides.
then both sides. We were on a break from this. And then a typed up letter, both sides, 2 of them. And I love you, and I love what your family has been through, but who has time for that? Can you? I know you guys are all probably like, wait a minute. Do you read them?
No.
Who does? Somebody tell me who does. And I still get some from a handful of people. Oh, cursive.
I do
By the
too.
way, has that been taken out of school?
No, we know cursive.
No. I know you do, but has that been taken? Honestly, has that been taken out of school?
No, I don't think so.
It is still a thing.
Max didn't learn cursive.
Yeah. See. So Jerry just said cursive. I know. I don't think so. Okay, you were born in December of '45, so I was at the end of the silent generation and the beginning, really, of the next. As a farm girl, I was originally a very shy person, but as you know, now look at me. Richard, do you ever notice the younger generation answers every question starting with the word Oh, good point. I try to erase that because it makes you think you don't know what you're talking about. From a broadcasting standpoint, we're going to teach you this more and more. Men who say you hear it, it's that baritone kind of sometime, right? But thinking.
Well, starting with I mean,
like, well.
Well, if you start a response with I mean, then you didn't already say something, so you shouldn't be saying I mean. Like,
or I think
it makes no sense. Saying it.
She's
like,
do
I
I
feel
say
picked
that?
on.
No, we're asking. So
'Cause I do that.
You do?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've probably done that a couple times already. Yeah.
Or I hear a lot of the younger generation say, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't. That's why we're having this discussion.
Know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying. No, I don't.
Oh, please explain it.
Richard, I remember when our phone number was only 4 digits. Oh, don't remember that. Interesting. We had 411. Thank you. 411 for information. Yes. Okay. So what is the positive?
I mean, if you want to say the positive,
Say there was an and I
It's
mean
okay.
right
It's
together,
okay.
back to back.
But now
I don't want to be here anymore.
I'm sorry.
No, actually, it's awareness, because when I was your age or even younger, when someone would bring that to my attention, it was, I didn't even know I was doing that. Okay, I'm going to break that.
I used to say like all the time.
Yes, so did
That
I.
was like a Valley Girl thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Now I don't want to talk. 'Cause
Yes,
I know
you
I'm going to do it.
What? Don't worry. We're not judging. What is the positive of this? And then we've talked about ghosting before.
Mm-hmm.
What's the negative about it also?
The negative ghosting or
Ghosting
the
and
negative
phones.
I think the negative and the positive is the communication, because
Mm-hmm.
like you can literally talk to anyone at any time in your life through your phone, but also that allows for anyone to have access to you at all times.
Doesn't mean you have to answer. If it's somebody that you don't respect or someone who doesn't deserve that.
You don't have to answer, but I think if you don't answer, it's still in the back of your mind, so it's still kind of weighing on you.
Well, if it's someone that you're connected to, yes, you have to answer. That's just respect, right? Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
However, what we probably need to break is the immediacy. Your generation, do you feel that do you feel it's weighing on you that if you got something from me, that there's a time frame of, oh my gosh, I better get back with Monica.
Yeah.
What is that time frame that's acceptable?
For you, like an hour probably.
Well, but if you're in the middle of something, I would, okay, now I'll give this to you. You can respond to me in that day.
Yeah.
If you don't respond in that day, I think that's rude. And that's something of respect that I don't care what business you're in. You should be getting back with that person. She sends a lot of emails out and she's like, these people do not respond. That's disrespectful. Respond, even if you're not interested. Just say, this isn't going to work for us at this time. Okay, but just completely, which I would consider just ghosting, is, do you agree, is disrespectful?
Yeah, I think you have to define ghosting, though.
So please do. Your version of ghosting, because people have asked me before.
Well, I mean, would you consider ghosting, like, someone's first contact with you to be, like, over text, and then, like, if you don't respond, do you feel like that's ghosting?
So you and I just met,
Yeah.
and we had one conversation, and then you just disappear?
Let's say, like, I watched your show, or not even that I watched your show, I just, like, knew of you somehow, and I just, like, texted you, and then you didn't respond. Do you feel like that's ghosting?
Yeah, I think it will fit in that because it's, yeah, I just think it's, I think ghosting is a form of disrespect. Now, you did bring up a good point, though. If you are in a relationship with someone that just didn't really serve you, and it was that this person's not good and needs to go away, would you say something of, you know, this isn't working, and then if the person continues, I don't consider that ghosting. I think you have actually, it's been definitive of, I really want to be left alone.
Yeah.
But just completely avoiding, I think, just brings up problems sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of context that needs to be involved, though, because, like, I know, I can't remember what show it was, but T and I were talking about it, and basically, I don't want to speak for Tia, but, like, we kind of were like, you know, if someone's, like, contacting you and you don't really have that much of a connection with them, and they're, like, weirding you out, and you're getting a really weird vibe, then, like, ghosting them, like, is a
Acceptable.
message to them to be like,
A message. Okay.
please back off, you're being weird.
But are they going to leave you alone if you haven't definitively ended it? Did you go out on a date or something? I mean, we're just giving a scenario, not you.
Yeah.
So you would have gone out on a few dates?
Yeah,
And then
like,
you just
say that, and then,
but
like,
you didn't say anything, that you just wanted them to figure it out?
Yeah.
That's where I think it's hard, though, because then all of a sudden, if they are relentless and they don't let go of it, it is that there hasn't been a final point.
Yeah, but that's when you block them.
Okay, right, which is something we didn't have.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right?
Nope.
They would show
We
up
would
at your
take the
doorstep.
phone off the hook.
They'd show up and your dad would be okay with them sitting on your couch. I'm speaking from experience here.
No, we would just take the phone off the hook. That's our way of blocking people.
If you're just tuning in, this is a new segment, and I love all of your interaction with us, which is what we want. This is going to be a regular thing that we'll drop in. Again, I'm not sure how often, maybe once a month, maybe more. Generational talk, and the reason I want it is because I think there needs to be more respect in this world between every generation. So yes, we're talking about communication with these and why some prefer certain ways. I like this. I like to speak to you.
Yeah.
But that has really gone by the wayside. In fact, I remember a parent saying that their kids were in the basement and they saw these little blue lights on and realized that they were all texting each other and they were all in the same space. That makes no sense to us. Okay, so does that make sense to you? If Tia's right over there, speak to her.
It's kind of just like if you're, you know, not talking and you're kind of like having a moment of peace to yourself, then like texting is the same as talking.
To that person that's right there?
It's the same as talking.
Oh, this is a good one. This has got to be, see? All right, everybody, let that sink in for a second. She's
they're in
right
the same
here,
room,
and this is the same as talking by sending this to her across the room. Now, if you're trying to say something that you want to talk about later that you don't want us to be known about, that's different.
Yeah.
But I would say that makes sense, and you're like, hey, remind me to tell you about this. But if this one doesn't make sense. That one did.
But you know what? When Monica was writing up the show, we should have been texting instead of talking behind her. We should have been texting each other. So we were interrupting her.
Okay, so Diane, I agree. More respect is needed, yes. I respond, but when it happens, some things get buried, okay? So Julie just asked, may I ask what is ghosting? Yes, go ahead. There's so many, I think, was it you? Somebody on this show asked what I thought ghosting was. Was it you? Somebody said, can you do me a favor and give a description of it? No, it wasn't you. Somebody asked because they actually didn't know. And I went deeper into it, and they're like, oh, now it makes sense. How about after parts of a conversation, yes, I say, do you know what I mean? Need to know if I'm making sense to you. That's after you've already said it. Not you know what I mean before you've even given anything. That's the difference there. So again, generational talk, weighing in. So let's see, what else did you have? The difference in the economy. Like called the older generation was able to support a family on one paycheck. Okay, Jim wants you to go deeper into this one.
Okay.
So one more time, listen to this. The difference in the economy. So think about our generation. It's really above our generation, Michelle. So we're talking our parents and grandparents. The older generation, they were able to support a family on one paycheck. And then you say, and how that's not an option for the younger generation. What do you mean by that?
Well, like, I couldn't do that.
Why?
Like, if I had a husband and, like, a kid, I couldn't live off his... Like, rent would be too much. Like, groceries are too much.
Where the economy
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
The inflation aspect and all of that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
It's nothing to do with, like...
An
you know,
option.
that, like, how we respect each other. It's
Yeah,
just
this
about,
cartoon.
like, how...
This cartoon I found it.
When I was a girl, my father brought home the bacon. Now we both work just to afford eggs. Yeah. Which I'm hoping
true.
will change in our world. It has. I mean, for the last several years, I cannot believe what the prices at the gas pump, what the groceries are. I'm going to ask this. So you would have, let's see. No, you weren't. How old are you?
22.
Yeah. So you probably would have been in grade school. I had a talk one time with kids that were in grade school and high school, and I said, my first job in radio, I made $12,500 a year. Is that a lot of money? Now, if you were in grade school, what would you have said to me?
I mean, that's not fair,
Probably.
'cause that's what I made last year.
Okay.
So, yeah. To me,
And
yeah.
so then my generation did run the household and be able to, so somehow I figured it out. That's what I made. My second job in radio, I made $15,000 a year. Asked the kids again, is that a lot of money? Yes. I said, no, it's
Right.
not. And the parents and the teachers that were there were cracking up. It's not. But somehow I wasn't married. I had a condo. I had to figure it out. So I think it's resilience in us. So even though you're saying that we couldn't, if you were forced to, and there are young moms that are having to figure it out, right? They have kids and some of them are on welfare. They have food stamps. They're having to figure it out. If you were forced to, Hannah, I'm just letting you know, this is where you get really tough and hard.
Yeah.
You would. You would.
Because that $15,000 isn't the same as today, you know? It would have to be, like, at least 30 or 40, I think, to even consider, like, it being livable at all.
Right. Because
Yet
the price
there
of
are-
everything is so ridiculous.
It is absolutely. But I'm telling you that there are people who I know that are making $15,000 or $17,000 a year, and they have figured it out. Have to somehow, some way.
They don't have a car. They're taking the bus.
They're riding bikes in the
Riding
cold.
bikes.
I mean, again, that's where I'm saying when we hear about the generations above us that were tougher. I do think at some point, and we're not going to be able to get to it today, but so when you hear the word softer generation, what do you think that means?
Like, I think that, you know, the upper generations just don't think that we have any resilience or, like, any toughness at all.
And that comes from every generation, by the way, because our parents could say, you have no clue. And actually, we look at it, just like you had said, you know, do I think that we would have made it through the Great Depression? I guess we would have had to have figured it out, right? But it was all the tough times and the things that they went through. And they didn't have phones. They didn't have TVs. You mentioned in your notes, and I think it's so true, it was, sometimes I just feel like it was a kinder generation. We're in a world now where it's just too easy to just be ignorant to each other. You know, we talked about the killings, but it's also just disrespect across the board. So what do you think, before I bring T in, what do you think can bridge the generations?
That's a big question. I don't know.
But we need to hear from you. Where do you think the disconnect is?
I just think we have completely different, like, cultures almost. Where, like, the way that you guys talk to each other is not at all how me and Tia talk to each other.
In what way?
It's just completely different. I don't know. Like, in every way.
I would need more context to that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the way we talk to each other? Like just communication as in
that,
this,
and,
or?
like, you know, you guys can relate to each other, and, like, you can understand each other's position on things, where I don't really necessarily feel like you guys could understand my position on things necessarily.
Which goes back to what? Starts
I
with the
don't-
C. What's the word I'm looking for? Communication. If you, anybody would let us sit down and listen, then we would get it. This is what I'm wanting. And this is exactly why this segment is starting. I want them to come to the table and go, here's what we want you to hear. Here's what we want you to listen to. And then I want you actually to marinate on that and go home and talk maybe to a husband or to a parent or a grandparent and say, so this is what they're saying. Do you understand that's what they're saying? This is what we're hearing, but this is what they're saying. There it is. Communication. That's key. Okay, so was there anything else on here that we want to table for next time? Oh, health. Yes.
Health.
Okay, this one is, okay, so AI, keep notes of this, folks, for us. AI, and this is interesting. She said how health isn't as much of a priority for the younger generation. I'm not even going to let you even say anything about that because that has to be another big show. So your first thing next time is going to be that. I had no clue, by the way. I've never even heard that. Have you?
No.
Right, I thought that was very
No.
interesting. And I don't know if Tia agrees with that. Again, that also is interesting about people in the same generation and feeling different within their own generation. So for Hannah next time, how health, she says, isn't as much of a priority for the younger generation. I actually would have thought it was exactly opposite from everything I see on Instagram and TikTok and this new exercise and let's outdo the next person on the next exercise and these crazy things where you want to go as a trainer, that is so stupid. Why are they even doing that? That made me think that it was even a higher priority. So
gluten-free, organic, all that.
yes.
You know?
So this is interesting. That's going to be one of your first, and then she'll be able to add to that. Okay. And then AI, that will be for Zach. Okay. Hang on. Do you feel our country is falling behind because of our attitudes and our pompous attitude? Interesting. We do not realize many of the world's countries will be the big power because how they educate and communicate to our next generations. Multiple languages, communicating, there it is, building character and strength, et cetera, et cetera. That's interesting. Anybody want to weigh in on
School
that?
systems are definitely better in
They-
other countries.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Marilyn agrees with Diane. I feel this youth, okay, here we go. I feel this youth does not know how to communicate. Have we not learned from our legacy generation? Well, they're saying, and again, we'll let them talk a little bit deeper. We'll actually have Tia come in about communication because she was talking about phones as well. So sad to limit our generation. Why do we do that? Yeah. See, I told you all would talk. Don't go anywhere. We're not done. We told you we're going to go a little bit longer today. So we're going to, thank you, by the way. And that too, respect. Thank you. Please hold doors open. Here's a whole nother thing that doesn't happen.
Make eye contact.
Make eye contact, which is what Michelle said. And you and Tia actually disagreed with that one. So we're going to actually end with Hannah and bring Tia in. When it comes to eye contact.
Oh gosh. No.
And saying hi to
Can't.
people. Saying hi to
I'm bad
people on
with-
the street. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So would you, before you leave, do you make eye contact? Do you say hi to strangers?
I think I might have a different perspective on this because I've worked at Walmart for 5 years, and if I don't look at anyone, they won't talk to me. So that is not a good thing to say as an employee, but that's kind of the way that I've like trained myself to get my work done, is to like just focus on like what I'm trying to do.
She doesn't know I'm going to say this. So since you started with us, which was what? August? Okay, I was going to say August or September. She has grown exponentially. You were so timid, so shy that I didn't know if you
I'm
ever
still
talked.
timid
Nope.
and shy.
Well, you might be, but you have come out of that. Did you not agree? She's found her own voice, which is something that I was hoping that I would be able to teach you because otherwise you get eaten alive in this business world. You have found that.
Thank you.
And I don't know if it was because there was a crossover between, let's just do that. If it was a crossover between some interns that were going out and that you were coming in and sometimes you're just trying to find your way. That's what I was wondering in the beginning. But as in the beginning it was, oh, I gotta get her to feel comfortable with this. And in the last month and a half, suddenly it's coming in, talking, eye contact. I was like, oh, we've had a shift, which I think is beautiful.
Oh.
I'm gonna compliment you on that.
I didn't even know I was like different.
Yeah, so you're probably, would you label yourself as shyer?
Yes.
Right, but I don't know, you have found your path.
Thank you.
We're going to keep it going. All right, everyone. Hannah Ledford, again, we're talking about generational talk and the difference in the way we live our lives and the way we feel about the generations before us and after us. What I want is for a little more respect, listening to them, what they're really saying, not feeling that you know what they're talking about, and then having them listen to us and learn from us, right? That's for me, actually, it's the greatest thing. It is, whether it's a woman or a man, what we've already been through, that we can say, this is coming, just want you to pay attention. Some things are definitive, okay? So we're going to take a break. And we're going to bring Tia in, Tia Tricamo. She wants to also talk a little bit about the cell phones, and we'll talk about communication as well, eye contact, all those things, anything that we've already said that she wants to weigh in on, and then some of her topics as well. Don't go anywhere. Feel free to weigh in if you want to on Generational Talk.
Discover your full potential with a personalized styling experience. Designing, customizing, and transforming the looks of men and women. Revamp your individual style and embrace what makes you, you. That's real confidence.
So tomorrow, Jennifer Warman-Bloss will be joining us from Elemental Aesthetics, which is located inside that building, 425 North New Ballas Road. And there's the suite they're in, 206. Now, tomorrow, she's going to talk about a lot of services that we have not talked about yet. One of those, the Dermapen, but she also has other things that has to do with the body, whether it is from the medical standpoint. Now, I want you to hear this. For those of you that have taken Ozempic, a Mounjaro, or semaglutide, there's a big thing from a medical side of muscle loss. She has a new machine that's going to give you that muscle back. Is that what's going to take place? I don't know. We're going to talk about all of this. If you are in the salt room, then you can look at how beautiful it is, but also the mindset of what it can do as you are in this sick period right now and opening up your lungs. The red light therapy, purple light therapy, as well as the aspect of going and getting your nails done or IV hydration therapy. All of that can be done solo or together. Elemental Aesthetics, again, 425 North New Ballas Road, Suite 206, and their phone number for you and for those gift cards, 314-279-6069. All right, welcome back, folks. Generational Talk. That's a segment we just kicked off today. We've got a couple new things, by the way. One that's going to include my doggies. Cannot wait for this one, and I know Tia can't either. She's like, this is awesome. Tia Tricamo, who you've heard me talk about, does a lot of our social media. Welcome in.
Hello, thank you.
So Tia actually did a show with me initially at my home, and then she's been here, and I saw Dad was watching. Proud Daddy
yes,
at
I
home.
told him on my way out this morning I would be on.
I'm going to be on. Okay, Marilyn, by the way, I love also the mutual respect between generations. Marilyn said, Hannah, you did great. This is part of character building. Recommend self-help books. Absolutely. So if you want to weigh in on Generational Talk, please do so for anything that we've talked about. So before we get to your topics,
yes,
you've been sitting over there chomping at the bit. I know it.
I know.
What did you most want to weigh in on?
Oh my gosh. Like everything. Everything I had a thought about because I've talked about it with my parents. My parents have their stories of walking 5 miles to school in the snow and everything. I can't imagine that just because of like where I lived. I don't think it would have been possible to.
It would have been. You would have had to have.
I mean, there's no shoulder or anything.
Oh, I know. And I walked. You know where I live, and they get mad at me. I walk the dogs, and there is no shoulder. You have to like jump in the grass.
Well.
So you think that your parents would not have, just wouldn't have let it happen?
Oh no, they would have found a way for us to not have
driven.
to walk. Yeah, if it came down to it.
From a safety standpoint.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people that did walk to my school, like elementary,
what do you think it taught
middle,
them?
high school. I guess it taught them to get to school by themselves. They didn't have their parent saying like, get in the car, we're going. If their parents had to work, you know, early or anything. So it probably taught them time management and discipline, but also like kind of safety, being on your own. Yeah, trust, I would say. But also we had crossing guards, and they would like call on the intercom in elementary school, at least, for any kids that were walking home, would all like meet up at the front so they knew exactly who was going out and everything. So, I mean, it felt pretty safe, but.
We also were talking about eye contact.
Yeah.
And I think you were weighing in saying, yes, you do that.
Yeah, I do eye contact, and like Michelle was saying, I do wave at strangers. Like, I'll wave at anyone on the street. I also feel like I'm very chatty with, like, cashiers or, like, store clerks, employees, anything like that. I try to be friendly because I know that even though I'll never see them again, like, who
But you
would
don't
I,
know.
Huh?
You don't know if you'll ever see them.
I don't
They
know.
could turn in your boss one day.
On the off chance that I don't see them again, I don't want to be like a bad part of their day. So I feel like I keep eye contact with people and I'm pretty friendly.
Look at me right now. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it's a good thing. And I think it teaches more of what we say at the end of every show, right? To be kinder.
Yeah.
But I understand if you're probably more outgoing than Hannah. It also depends on our own character. It builds, though, like Marilyn was just saying, it does help build character, but we can't force it upon people. Do you like it? This is a good question. Do you like it if someone holds a door for you?
Yeah.
Okay, but there are women who think, I've got it on my own. Oh, do you know
Really?
that? Oh, yes.
I've
Which
never
makes no sense to me.
experienced that.
I don't care
hold
whether
the
you're
door
a girl.
For people
Yeah.
in almost an irrational way. I will hold the door for an entire
For a long-
family
yes.
and
Me too.
just keep going.
What would you do,
until
though?
it gets awkward.
And she just turned 21. What would
Yeah.
you do if someone told you, I don't need you to hold the door for me?
That's never happened in my life.
I'm just telling you, it may. It's happened to me a handful of times. I'm like, oh, okay,
I
just
mean,
just
I
being
wouldn't
kind.
take it personal.
They want it to be. It's a teaching thing. In fact, there's a lot of women out there that don't want a man to hold the door for them because they say, I can take care of myself. It's so silly. I wish you would just take it as a respect issue.
I've never experienced that, but
Oh,
if it
yeah.
did happen,
Anybody?
I haven't
wouldn't
experienced
take
it
it
either, no.
personally.
I've seen it. I've seen it, and I laughed, and I went, wow, they're just being kind, right? It's crazy. It's that whole movement of, I don't need a man. Okay, he's just holding the door for you. But a girl can hold a door for a girl or a guy or anybody, kids. It's a respect issue. It keeps going back to respect and communication. So when we looked over at you earlier, what did you not know? When she made the face, and you were like, you
I
had
don't
never
even
heard.
know what the
See,
term
dang
was. You were talking about the tapes, and I know what those are.
Oh,
and
you don't know.
I used
You don't
those
know
as
what
a kid.
a 8-track is. Is that right?
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
don't
right,
think
an
so.
8-track.
Do we have a picture of one?
If you described it to me or used a different term.
So the way this actually used to be in a car. So before you were excited about a cassette player being in a car, which was a big deal, and I still to this day remember my mom and dad got the Subaru, and I'm like, it's got a cassette player.
We had a cassette player.
You had a cassette player? Okay,
in my
and then it
house.
was CDs, and now it's everybody plugging in their phones and everything off,
Satellite.
whatever, right? But 8 tracks. It was this.
Sounds familiar.
It was this big, thick thing about this big that went into your car.
I can't
8-track.
picture it.
Do we have one? We have a picture of an 8-track?
I did not.
No, okay, no.
No.
But you know what CDs are?
Yeah.
But
DVDs.
It's like this
You know,
half the size.
yeah, it was chunky.
I could,
of this.
If I saw it, I'd probably.
And
be
it had
like,
it had a tape that
Well-
ran in the front, and you just.
I can't picture it, but I think if I saw
And you may
one,
not have.
I would
You may
understand.
not have.
And
See,
then sometimes, you'd hear it warble like a little bit, and then the tape would come running out, and so you're driving along, and the tape's just running out and
I
running
have
out,
seen
and you're
that
like,
in a movie for sure.
All right, there you go. That's usually what happens in the other generations. They're like,
Yep.
oh, I've seen that somewhere. Stephanie said, I'm grateful to anyone that holds a door for me since I walk with a walker. Yes, please. Again,
Yeah.
it's an awareness thing. We talk about getting out of your own way and being kind to people. So some of the things that I think, and this is interesting because all these VHS tapes are Zach's, who's 25. He collects those. I asked everybody on the team, you have vinyl?
I collect vinyl.
Yes, but vinyl made a comeback.
It did.
And I love that.
We
This-
always had a record player in my house, in my basement. And
You're a
my
musical
dad-
family.
Yes.
My family is very musical, so my dad he kept all of his old vinyls that we would listen to together, and then I started my own collection too.
Yeah.
So I would estimate 40 to 45
Oh, yeah.
vinyls.
I remember
of my own.
asking for a record player from my mom because I love vinyl so much, just that sound. And again,
Yeah.
to me, that takes you back to other
It
generations.
has a certain aesthetic appeal as well.
I love that has come back. Fashion, by the way, makes its return. So we can think back at the 80s. Do we want the hairstyle to come back? No. But some of the shoulder pads, not as big as they were. But some of those things are cyclical. So we'll see
Yeah.
them again maybe 10, 15, 20
Yeah.
years. And I think that's a fun thing. So, all right, let's go back into communication. So both of you, it was interesting that when I asked for topics from my team, both Hannah and Tia right away went to this. You say the difference between having handheld devices, phones now versus no smartphones in previous generations, especially during young adulthood. So when do you think that a kid should first be given one of those?
I actually just saw a post, I think on Twitter or TikTok this morning, of a parent saying that they were trying to hold out giving their middle schooler a phone for as long as possible. And there was a lot of controversy on it, which I agree, especially with what you were talking about in the news this morning. If my child didn't have a phone to contact me in case of an emergency, I would be freaking out.
Yep.
But also, I don't think it's beneficial to kids to get a phone so early, especially with social media and the fact that they have safeguards for kids, but they don't really work. They're not really enforced.
Well, yeah.
And
it's like a lot of website. Are you
Yeah.
under the age of whatever? They're
Yeah.
not stupid. They're just
Yeah.
like, yeah,
I
right?
know. And I did the same thing when I was a kid. So I know how easy it is to kind of get past those safeguards. And I know that the companies, that they do that to kind of create this facade of, oh, we're kid friendly, but your phone will never be fully kid friendly.
Right.
So,
well, and this is something that Tia actually brought up to me, and I figured we'd probably bring it back up on the show as well. Again, if you're just tuning in, generational talk, and we're not usually on at this time, but I wanted to be able to go a little bit longer today because this is something that I felt you would be very interactive with. Because again, you're speaking firsthand of what your experiences are. Marilyn, I'll get to your comment in just a second. You mentioned one time, and I'm interested of what your viewpoint is, of this being so accessible to everyone. They have it out like it's an umbilical cord. You go to dinner and it's out instead of being put away.
Yeah.
I remember Diane one time talking about, from a respect standpoint, that if you have it out, that means that you don't respect the person that you're with, right? But it was also, and this is one of the things that I think you all need to listen to, how readily available we are, or the, I guess, the feeling that we are because this is available. That somebody has your phone number or has your email and it pops up and you got your email linked to this.
Yeah.
You don't like that?
I don't like that.
Yes, I've heard her say this
at
before.
all. I talked to my dad about this a lot because whenever he was about my age, we have a very similar kind of viewpoint around the world. And he was able to take a step back, focus on just himself. He focused a lot on meditation. He focused a lot on finding peace and solidarity. And that's not a possibility realistically anymore because your phone is your lifeline. You can't realistically get a job without a phone. And I know that you were saying to Hannah earlier, obviously there are exceptions to all of this. You could make it work if you needed to, but if you had to. If you absolutely had to, but the standard for the world is that you need a phone to survive, to make money, to know what's going on in the world, to have friends, to stay connected with family members. The standard is that your smartphone is a lifeline.
So Michelle just sent me something a day or so ago, I believe it was you, that for 21 days?
Yes.
The phones were taken away
In
from
Britain.
the kids.
Mhm.
And what did they come back?
At first, they were just like, it's my baby. Like, you can't take this away from me. But they found that the children were more focused in school.
I believe it.
They were getting more sleep at night.
Yeah.
The teachers were impressed by their improvement in school.
I
and
completely
then
believe it.
they were outside playing. They were outside riding bicycles. It was a big game
I
changer.
love that.
And some of the kids were even saying, you know what, I don't think I need this app anymore. I don't need this app anymore.
They literally said, and I quote, I'm going to delete TikTok.
I
just
that.
realized what it did to my life. So now that comes back to parents, our education system or whatever. Do you have that discussion of limiting this more and more and more?
I hope so.
Well, here's the thing, though. Because it was such a large group of kids, like it was a whole class, they knew that they weren't by themselves.
Yeah.
If you just take your phone away from your kid, then they're completely isolated.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was, 21 kids. So they were all like, okay, we're in this
We
together.
have each other, yeah. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
Marilyn, yes. So Marilyn just said, this is ridiculous. I miss the kindness and respect. It amazes me when the not-so-gentlemen or younger generation do not offer to open the door, but run over me trying to come into the location. Yes, I see that as well. That's getting out of your own way, right? And not just concentrating on you. Oh, yes, I love getting the reaction and so disappointed in those that ignore a kind smile or a hello or a Merry Christmas. Well, that's another thing. Do you say Merry Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So do I. However, some people are like, Happy Holidays, and I said, Merry Christmas.
I say either.
No, I
think
say
that
both,
they're
but I start with Merry Christmas.
interchangeable.
And
to
I
me.
understand that some people don't. I get it.
Yeah.
But don't feel like you don't have to say Merry Christmas. Say Merry Christmas, then you can say Happy Holidays. But don't take Christ out of Christmas. That's the biggest thing I'm going to say. You know I'm faith-based, so remember the reason for this whole thing. Remember the reason for the season. And some of you that don't celebrate Christmas, we understand that. Then you could say Happy Kwanzaa. Oh, absolutely, Happy Kwanzaa to you. We want to acknowledge all of that. Again, it goes back to respect.
Actually,
okay.
I to say something to that, we went to lunch the other day, and it was the four of us. And the waiter, he was so cute. He came over and he says, "I have gifts for you." And this was our food.
Yeah.
And he says, "Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Honda Days,
That's so
and Happy
cute.
Toyota-thon."
Cover all the bases.
He covered all. It was
He is
hilarious.
not getting canceled today.
All right, so
funny.
Tia's last one before we have to wrap up. She said, additionally, how this feeds into our perception of ourselves and future generations' lack of self-confidence because we have so many people, including strangers from across the world, to compare our looks, career, and lifestyle. Elaborate on that.
Okay. I think that since I was a kid, I have had internet friends. I've had online friends, which is something that is, I guess, your generation's version of pen pals in a way, without the writing aspect of it, someone that you connect to from across the country, across the world. And that wouldn't have been such an immediate possibility before. Pen pals, you're taking the time to write out a letter of the updates of your life for the past few months, past few weeks. It's not this immediate
back and forth
communication. My generation and younger has such an immediate response from not just one individual pen pal, but from millions of people across the world that they will never meet, they will never know in real life, and they're only seeing that person's highlight reel from their seemingly perfect life. And if that's all you're seeing, it's making you think, wait, why doesn't my life look like that? Why do they have a bigger house than me? Why do they get to go to parties every weekend? And why do they get to have this perfect body? How do they have the energy to go to the gym all the time? How is all of their food, perfectly healthy and vegan?
Because they're fake.
Because they're fake. Because they're
Why do you think we do the show, Tia?
Yeah.
Because I'm literally trying to get the world to be more real. You're welcome, Stephanie.
Absolutely every aspect, you can fake your life on social media. And I could go on and on about AI because it's getting so much worse. But even when I was young, and I probably got Instagram in 2013, 2014, which was pretty early on, and technology wasn't as developed back then, but you could still fake your life if you wanted to, and it was pretty easy. You could make it seem like you had the most perfect life, and for young kids on there, 10, 11, 12 years old like I was on Instagram, I think that had an impact on me. And I grew up pretty confident, so it wasn't anything detrimental to me. Maybe I went on my Pinterest board and, saved different healthy meals and
That's a vision board.
workouts.
That's a good
It's
thing.
a visual representation, so it was a little bit more beneficial for me. But it is a lot of pressure.
You said in the corner when we were talking about what we're going to bring up on our next generational talk, which has to do with health. Hannah's comment there really surprised me.
I agree,
Oh,
and
okay.
I didn't
so
think
we're not
about
gonna
it
go
before.
into it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I would have thought the exact opposite from
Can
a
I
health
make one
standpoint.
comment on it
Yes.
to kind of get
Yes.
into it? I think that we prioritize mental health a lot more, but somehow we prioritize physical health less. And I don't know if we
triangle
mean
of
to.
life.
I don't know if we mean to do that. But we definitely prioritize mental health more.
Yes, because it's talked about. It is talked about now in their generation where it was not talked about, which
that's
wasn't
a whole
good thing.
New episode.
Actually,
for sure.
well, it's going to be a continuing because thank you for bringing that up. On Thursday, I am going to have a gentleman on. His name is Lee, and he just posted a video. And this is what I do love about connecting all over the world. He lives in South Beach. He posted about a 7-minute video, and he pulled over on the side of the road. Obviously, was not okay, and was putting it out there really as a penance, he said, to himself, kind of shaming himself, saying that he was in a relationship and he lost his soulmate, but it was his own fault and it was what he was going through, and saying that this all, now there's been some things that have happened since he posted that you haven't heard of that I can't wait to reveal.
Yeah.
But what I saw in that was, here is a guy who, if you look at him, and Michelle was like, oh, he's good looking. He is a model for 30-something years, very good looking guy. Like, you look at him and think, well, he even said, he's like,
got it all.
He even said,
he's fine.
He said, I am blessed, and my friends all say, you got a great life. And he's like, I do, but it's what happened in all those years of modeling, and what does that do? Does it feed this ego? He has. Do you know what an avoidant is? He's been labeled as an avoidant
Attachment style?
by his counselor. He's going to tell us all on Thursday.
Okay, yeah, I know what an avoidant attachment style
Okay,
is.
and so what has happened in all the comments, and thousands of people have come out of the woodworks seeing his video that he thought maybe might affect about 300 people. He woke up to 50 to 60,000, then 90,000. Who knows what it's reached now? We're going to play a clip of that video and then come out of it and talk with him about how you look at his Instagram, his TikTok pages, and it's like, this guy's
He's
got
fine,
everything.
he's got it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But wait till you see what happened. And I thought it was
Yeah.
a good point to
That is
bring up, that we
interesting.
can't. Well, it's also the whole thing of don't judge a book by a cover, and you don't know what goes behind closed doors. All those comments, that really can reach all generations.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this before we wrap up. Okay, hold on. Oh, fabulous pen pals. More quality, not quantity on communication. Yes. Thank you. Great topics.
That's a good point. Quality over
Remember the
quantity.
Oprah show of the two families that gave up their phone? Yes, for weeks, and how much their quality of family greatly changed for the better. Well, they came back to the dinner table for. I mean, I've been saying this for years. You've got to have dinner table again. It's got to come back. I don't know. I don't know when. Let me end with this, and then I'll
Okay.
let you actually choose the devotional.
Ooh, fun.
What do you wish our generation would know more about your generation?
No more. I was thinking about this while Zach and Hannah were talking, and I think that this is something that your generation, or maybe a little bit older, forgets, is that we are suffering the consequences of decisions made by our parents' generation or
In
the
what way?
millennial generation.
Suffering in what way?
What I was thinking about is we're suffering the consequences of smartphones and social media, but we didn't create that. We didn't decide as children, I don't want to play outside anymore. I want to be glued to this screen. We're suffering the consequences of direct marketing, of companies that make money off of us being addicted to phones and not playing outside. People are profiting off of that in the older generations.
What do you think our addiction was? That would have
Yeah,
been
I would like to
similar.
know that too, because
Anybody?
you can make money off of what children are addicted to or interested in or prioritizing. And we were preyed upon as kids to be addicted to social media and to be addicted to smartphones.
Probably television.
Yeah.
And that's where all the commercials would
That's
come
what I
in.
was-
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was what was
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah.
But you're going to
So, yeah.
have to tell us, Marilyn, Diane, my mom, anybody else, what would it have
Yeah,
done
I'm
for
sure
you?
it carries through every
It does.
generation.
It just looks a little different.
It
and then
looks
we
a
have
little
to
different.
go, oh, okay, never mind. That is that.
And I think there has been kind of an exponential growth in the problem since the new age of technology, but obviously the problem has existed in every generation.
And one of the things each generation says is, and then fill in the blank, I'm concerned for
Yeah.
this generation because.
Yeah.
So you would have to think of
Yeah.
your 5, 6, 7-year-old nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
I'm concerned for them
I
because
do
of
get
this.
so concerned.
See? And there's
because
the
it
mental health
is
side.
this exponential growth since technology has kind of gotten its kickstart.
Yet we also, though, can look at the benefits that have come from this. Whoever decided to come up with all of this.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
My math teacher was like, well, it's not like you're going to have your calculator in your hand and you're doing this. You
Yes,
have
I
to learn
do.
this math.
Oh,
Now we
really?
do.
Oh, yeah. So she said, you are so correct. It was their babysitter. And for some, it still is. The phone. Yikes. Great segment. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy everything to everyone.
Happy everything to everyone.
Okay, what are you feeling today with our generational talk? 100 days to freedom from what? So we've got overeating, fear and anxiety. We have depression. We have shame. And what's the other one? Anger, right?
Let's do anger. I'm not feeling angry, but
No,
it's
but
like blue.
right? So 100 days to freedom from anger. All right, we're going to take our final break. We're going to wrap up with this devotional, and then we want to tell you about our Mobile Monica coming up at Sugar Creek Winery. Are you going to?
It's gonna be fun.
You're not going to be
I
there.
can't
you
be
brat.
there. I'm gonna be in Chicago.
Fine.
I think I'm going to be the only one from the team there.
I know.
Really?
Yes.
It's a busy time of year.
Oh, it
Monica.
is.
It is.
But
Yeah.
what we always want to help all of our small businesses. We don't want
Yeah.
them to not have anything. So we understand that they're looking for that help
Yeah,
throughout.
true.
So Michelle will be there. My husband will be there. Her mom's going to be there. I'm going to solicit my family. We're going to have an amazing time and can't wait to sit down and talk with the family from Judgment Tree Distillery, which is on the same property of Sugar Creek Winery. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll come back and do our devotional. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Come on, Monica. Let's go, St. Louis. Turn and burn.
Hello, Miss Monica.
Monica.
Hi, guys. This is a good one. Sometimes you spend like 10 years and you don't got one like this.
Hi, Monica.
It's a feast. It's like a 17-course meal. You're just like, you need a minute. With wine. With a wine pairing. And a whiskey pairing.
That is what. There it is.
I think I just had the most beautiful experience. I saw fireworks.
Thank you, Monica, for making our day.
All right, so Sugar Creek Winery, December 28th. It's going to be a huge day. Noon to 6 p.m. is the full day of food and drinks and music and just so much fun. You getting an opportunity to see what they distill there, vodka, brandy. They've got incredible wines. 30-year anniversary, by the way. It's going to be fun. Our broadcast will be from 1:30 until 3 p.m., but I want you to get out there early because for some of you, you've already RSVP'd. That doesn't mean anything for us. It means something for them. We're just kind of trying to give them an idea of how many people we expect out there. For you, it doesn't mean that you're getting a table saved. It doesn't mean that you have to pay something for food and all that in advance. You'll buy your own food and buy your drinks and whatever, but it's a huge time for you to sit in a new enclosed patio that I swear looks like Santa's workshop. I mean, there's a bow on the front door when you walk in. There's a gorgeous fireplace, and it's just all decorated so beautifully. So we're excited to sit down with the family and talk about 30 years ago what their dream was and how far they have progressed. So, yeah, let us know, by the way, if you're going to come out there and you're going to join with us and celebrate the holidays together. All right, Tia picked this one, and I don't think this one's been chosen, actually, for a while. 100 Days to Freedom from, and are you ready for it? If God doesn't always play a role in what we choose? Parental anger.
Oh, my God, that's so funny.
Right? All right, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord. This is from Ephesians 6, verse 4. So what do you do when, as a parent, you're about to lose your cool? Maybe you've told the children something multiple times and yet get no cooperation, and so you send them to time out. Or in the past, you used to spank them. Parents often experience anger in raising children, but unfortunately, it isn't always handled correctly. As a child, you might have been on the receiving end of a parent's anger. You might be struggling with anger as you are the parent now. If you recognize that you're struggling with reactions that are too harsh and perhaps reminiscent of your own childhood, you can get some help. Maybe you don't know how to deal with the anger that rises when children are disobedient. Recognize the patterns in your parenting and notice what happens when anger begins to build. What physical symptoms do you recognize before that outburst happens? Learn to recognize your anger in building and take a minute to calm down before you address the issue. You might ask for help from your spouse or another trusted person. You know, we always talk about sending that text out or making that phone call or sending out the email. Pause. And you may rework the entire thing or you may delete it and not do it at all, because if you send it in the heat of anger, there is a lot of danger that comes out of that. Are you overwhelmed? Perhaps you're feeling guilt or shame over how you treated your children when you had a short fuse. The same guilt and shame can actually prevent the cycle from being broken. If your reaction was out of line with how you want to parent, you need to recognize it and then apologize to your children for your behavior. There's respect again, apologizing. This doesn't absolve the disobedience. Rather, it sets the tone for the relationship. Address what needs to be corrected, but without the drama. You might want to do some deeper work if you had a harsh parent or if you've been a harsh parent. Meet with a counselor to work through forgiving your parents for the harm that caused you harm. Begin to make changes in your own parenting. This is a good one. It is better to bind your children to you by a feeling of respect and by gentleness than by fear. It goes back to that respect thing we talked about. So here's your prayer for today. Father God, help me be the parent you have called me to be, leading my children to follow you. Forgive me where I have failed and help my children forgive me and live their life without the pain of my feelings. I pray that I can forgive any grievances I might be holding on to from my own childhood so that I may live free of the past. Amen to that. Isn't that crazy how it ties into everything we were talking about? Slow to anger is the next one. Oh, I like that. All right. So, again, thank you to Tia, Michelle, to Zach, to Hannah, to all of you that have been very talkative. Do me a favor and share today's show and get people talking, because what I'd like for you to do, for anybody that is not able to watch live, have them load up some comments and questions for us, and we'll take those and we'll bring them into future generational talks. Marilyn, I think the word's probably explore. I don't think you meant exploit. I wouldn't think, but she said, I would love to explore that last comment. Love my parents for so much. New segment. Can you do me a favor and tell me what, because we've been talking about a lot of things, what comment was that? And then let us know. Okay, so tomorrow, Jennifer Warman-Bloss, Lee Dahlgren, I think is the pronunciation, hopefully, of his last name, on Thursday. On Friday, we have a young kid. Again, I love bringing kids into the show, who is a mastermind when it comes to this light display that he's been doing. And I think Channel 5 actually did an interview with him. But this kid, I mean, all year long has been running different businesses. So when we say that they can be hard workers, we're talking about a 15-year-old, right? A teenager that's already a leader, hopefully, for other kids that are around him. And then next Monday, we'll do our Medical Monday talk with Jennifer McDaniel Nutrition Therapy. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that have been in the news about seed oils and colon cancer. We will also talk about one of the things that maybe we need to introduce more into our eating, which is beans. That was one of the number one things. And then New Year's resolutions and how you all put so much weight on yourself about trying to take the weight off. See what I did there? Okay, so we're going to wrap up. I'm going to let them complete the sentence. In a world where you truly can be anything, you can believe in yourself, you can take the path of, hey, it's going to lead me over here. Maybe this is where my life is taking me now. I was just telling Tia that I want her to learn so many other aspects of what we do in this business, because you never know if it'll pull you over here. But before you do anything,
be kind.
Just be kind.
Bye, all. God bless you. Thank you.